Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Matt Curran Show. This week, we're going to piggyback off last week with our interview with Gabriela Escudero and talking about the pro-life movement, particularly in Nevada. And so we were going to talk about the pro-life movement sort of as a whole here in the United States. Now, it's very clear from these latest election results from both the midterms in 2022 and here in 2024 that the American people don't want two things. It's very clear where they broadly stand. Number one, they don't want 9-month abortions. They don't believe late-term abortion, partial birth abortion, as they call it, where they go in with a pair of scissors in the third trimester and they just snap the baby's neck and then take it out. Though those abortions have occurred. And if you're one of the people that don't think that you should have a third trimester abortion, and yet they have occurred in the United States, then you do believe that murder has occurred inside the womb, even if you don't believe that the first and second trimester are also murder. So it's horrific. It's horrible, and Americans don't want it. On the other hand, Americans don't want what we want as pro-lifers, which is a complete and utter ban of abortion with the exception of life of the mother. Because we on the pro-life side are trying to protect the most vulnerable, the baby and the baby themselves. Though a person who did absolutely nothing and deserving of having his life ended. And so where do Americans stand? Well, let's take a look at some of the data. I'm going to show you, I want to show you, first of all, some election ballot measures that happened in 2024. We're going to go through them here together. This is from NBC News, just sort of the landscape here, as you can see. I want to point out Arizona. Arizona voted for Donald Trump, just over 50%, and yet they went for this abortion thing that says, quote unquote, provides a right to abortion in the state of Arizona and enshrines it into the Arizona Constitution before the point of fetal viability. 61% of people voted for that, which is a supermajority. For those of you who don't know, if you get 60% of anything in politics, it's called a supermajority. Now in Arizona, you only needed 50% of the vote to enshrine it in the Constitution, so they were well above their means to get it. Colorado, also, right to abortion and healthcare insurance coverage to abortion, 62%. Florida, right to abortion. You needed 60% for this to pass. It did not get 60%, but still, an alarming 57% of people voted for this right to abortion. And these are the same Floridians that just 2 years ago voted nearly 60% to reelect Governor DeSantis. The same 60% of people that the left claims Ron DeSantis is this ultra right-wing, super evil conservative. 20% of the electorate just swung the other way and voted for essentially 20%. I mean, just by a hair, by a few percentage points, so 18, 17%, whatever you want to call it, voted for this abortion bill, or abortion amendment in Florida. There's a very clear middle and the way that people like to govern things. 75% in Maryland. Missouri barely passes, 51% right to an abortion. The only places where it did not pass, as you can see, Nebraska, they have two things. This is still unclear whether it's a right to an abortion or prohibits abortions after the first trimester, which is around 12 weeks. So Nebraska, you can see they're split here. But the only places it did not pass was South Dakota. So congratulations, South Dakota. You won't have any abortions there. But these election results show a few things. Number one, it shows that voters are smart. They know how to split their ballot. They're not dumb. They're not trash. They're not deplorables. They're not garbage. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. Voters are smart. The American people are smart. They know how to split their ballot up. Meaning, they know that for the last 2 years, they've been told that it's now given the issue back to the states. What does that mean? They know when they vote for the federal government, whether it be Congress, United States Senate, or President of the United States, their right to a quote-unquote abortion is not going to be taken away because they have no real right to do that. And or would they do that because of the messages that the GOP and the Democrats have been signaling? Well, the Democrats have been going extraordinarily to the left, preaching 9 months abortions with no exceptions, by the way. You push Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, or any of these others on where do you draw the line, they just simply say, well, I want the woman to draw the line. I don't want to draw a line. Even if that line means 9 months, where they do partial birth abortion. They go in with a pair of scissors and just snap that baby's neck and pull it right out. They don't want to have the conversation about the line. They just want to keep saying rights, 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 women's rights. The GOP has taken a softer tone on abortion, which has made some of in the pro-life movement a little unhappy, but reasonably they understand. In which they say, look, it's to the state issue, so the federal government doesn't have, those running for federal office don't have to really deal with the issue a whole lot, other than saying that we're not going to sign an abortion ban. There are a couple things that they could still do and might even get bipartisan support on, and we'll get into that in a second. But on the state legislative things, on the state legislative races, they have to put their wind to the finger and feel where their state's at, which is the way it kind of should be on all the issues: gay marriage, guns, what have you, right? What does your state want? The diversity in governmental thought should be the diversity we pursue, not diversity of race or ethnic group or anything like that, but diversity of thought. But when it comes to abortion, shouldn't we be protecting the most vulnerable among us? But these state legislators, this is where it stands now. I'm going to show you where we're at. Let me find the map. Here we go. This is where we're at. So as you can see at the bottom, those in black are the ones that have made it illegal. The ones in green go all the way to 99 months. Legal at any stage. Some of the states you might find surprising. You would say, well, I thought that was a conservative state. Why is a state like, Iowa? Why is a state, or not Iowa, they're at what, legal before cell activity, but even, Ohio, right? Nebraska or Kansas, all the way up to 22 weeks in Kansas, 5 months. California, before legal viability. So you've got, or even Alaska. Alaska's generally considered a conservative state, and they go all the way to 9 months. This is where the abortion state by state lies after all these referendums are officially placed on the ballot. We are in the middle of a great sorting out of America. Our Supreme Court has been sending a lot of issues back to the state to handle, which is ironically the most democracy thing you can do. While the left also preaches that the right is anti-democratic, the left then preaches that, well, these need to be fundamental rights enshrined in our U.S. Constitution, and the states should not be voting on things. Let me unshare. So, where does the pro-life movement go from here? With the GOP softening its message, we've got 4 years of a federal administration for Donald J. Trump coming in. Where does the GOP go from here? Or where does the pro-lifers go from here? Because we look at the map, we know that Americans don't want to come to our side completely. We the pro-lifers, for the first time, have really been the ones sort of reaching to the middle a little bit. Democrats have, and partially because the Democrats are way out there and not willing to come to the middle, right? Like, when was the last time you heard a Democrat say, you know what, I think the line should be 15 weeks. I think the line should be 20 weeks. I'm not advocating for that as a pro-lifer. I'll take whatever I can get to lower, but when was the last time you heard any Democrat talk about that? Never. The messaging on the GOP in primary situations, this is what I'm advocating for, in primaries. Obviously, once the primary is over, you need to accept who the nominee is and vote with them, because that's the best pro-life person you have. But in primaries, depending on your state, you need to find the most pro-woman, pro-life person. What do I mean by pro-woman? I mean this. I'm going to show you a data point on why women, why they elect to get abortions. This was a research study, as you can see here, from 2004 to 1987. So some of these are sort of ridiculous reasons to me, but the other reasons are more emotional, financial, pressure by parents or boyfriends. Supposedly it's the woman's right, but yet the boyfriend and parents have a say. That's weird. So here we go. We'll go through a couple of these. Having a baby would dramatically change my life. 74%. In 2004, 78, or not 74, but 74 respondents said yes. Said that this was a reason. It would dramatically change my life. Well, yeah. I mean, someone with 4 kids, it does dramatically change my life. As you see, with it would interfere with my education, it would interfere with my job and employment, my career. have other children or dependents. I don't really want another one, basically. Like a couple people put those. But here's sort of where the main meat is. I can't afford a baby now. Well, this is where the GOP needs to change its messaging. Beyond abortion, right? Why do women seek abortions? They're telling us. Now, luckily some of us in the pro-life movement have been ahead of the curve on this. There are maternity homes, pregnancy centers that are out there. I'm getting ready to rejoin a board of trustees that does this. They will take care of you as long as you follow, some basic guidelines. If you are a single mother and you can't afford to have a baby right now, you want to go to college, there's resources out there to help get you through it. There are resources out there in these maternity homes and pregnancy centers to help you get jobs. There's people and resources out there to help combat a lot of these things. They need your money, though, if you're listening, for donation purposes to help amplify the voice. And some of these places do get public funding. And this is also where I go to the GOP. We need to be public funding these centers that help provide for these women to combat these needs for abortion. And it helps with the birth rate, which we'll get to in a second, with Bill Clinton, of all people, saying it. So they can't afford basic needs in life. That's some people. They're unemployed. They can't leave a job. Not enough support. I mean, again, financial reasons. Now we're getting into the emotional reasons. They're not sure about the relationship. Do they want to have a baby with this person? They do want a baby. I've talked to some of them, right? I've done the sidewalk counseling. Like some of them, they want a baby at some point, but they don't know if it's with this person. They're scared to let this person know. They're not in a relationship right now, right? Like I can't have one. Like what would my parents think? What would my boyfriend think? What would my friends think? They don't want to be a single mother or have relationship problems. 48, that's a lot of people. What's in this one? 38. Not having complications with childbearing. There's medical centers out there that can help you get through that. You don't have to kill your kid and abort the child just because you're having these complication issues. There's medical places out there that can help you. So you've seen the reasons out here, but I'm not going to go through every single one. But look, was a victim of rape one. Now, if you know anything about polling, this under the whatever the sign is, greater than sign 0.5, that means nobody responded to it, and they just put it in there because statistically the variant has to be within something, right? Like became pregnant as a result of incest. Well, nobody within the, let's say nearly 2,500, maybe 3,000 people, whatever that number ends up being, said that they were a result of incest, and 2 people out of all these people said that. Okay, it just shows that rape and incest are not a high concern. And again, we have resources to help the women get through it in order to keep the baby, because again, it's not the baby's fault. But also, rape and incest kind of go together. I don't really, all joking aside, I don't really think people get together with incest and then are like, hey, let's abort the kid. Like it's a weird situation. I've luckily never had experienced that, but whatever. Right. And then rape, you have all these other issues where you're going to be like, hey, should we charge how do you know it's rape? You got to go through a whole trial and charge the boyfriend or whoever was raping them, prove that it's rape. Can you do that in a quick and speedy trial and honor the man's right to be able to defend himself? How do you know he's not guilty? What if you do unjustly make him guilty, and then you abort the kid, and then he has a retrial, and then it turns out he's innocent? I mean, it's kind of like the death penalty. These situations, right? Did you put someone on death row the wrong way? That's how you should look at the rape thing, just like the death penalty. Could you have unjustly allowed someone to have an abortion, even if it's at 9 months? Because a lot of these rape and incest things, okay, fine. Let's say you got pregnant the next day, you immediately filed charges, you did the right thing, quote unquote, and you're like, oh, I'm going to wait for this trial. The trial comes up quickly, right? Right, and next thing you know, you're 8 months pregnant. This guy's convicted. You get the abortion, and a year goes by. He does a retrial, and it's proven that actually it wasn't rape. Third trimester abortion, rape exception. I mean, this is what we're talking about when we get to the rape and incest thing. But I know I'm going in the weeds here. The GOP messaging needs to be more offensive, depending on the state you're in, obviously. But the pro-life movement needs to be more offensive. We see from the ballot initiatives that it's only working in South Dakota, guys. Okay, Florida, a shiny red state, should have gone our way. I mean, more people voted for this abortion thing than they did the marijuana thing in Florida by 2%. 55% wanted to legalize marijuana in Florida. Now, you needed 60% to legalize it, so the marijuana thing didn't get passed either in Florida. But it just shows where our culture's at. That our culture has become this idea of, well, pro-choice means libertarianism. That somehow the woman has more rights than the baby in the womb. No, it does not. So here's the offensive message. The GOP needs to sort of strategize, and candidates need to strategize. And of course, this needs to be tailored to where your constituents, what district you're running to, is at, right, in your state legislator, in your state. Okay. And this is how I would probably answer a lot of my questions if I were running for office, too. And this is also what I truly believe, so I'm not making it up, okay? But if somebody asked me, what's your position on abortion? I would say, look, my position is this. We in the pro-life movement need to do more beyond abortion. We need to be able to help women. I support currently a maternity home fund here in the state of X, and it helps women who are seeking abortions to be able to get careers, to be able to keep the baby, keep careers. I also want to streamline adoption agencies. A lot of women, they may be in an emotional abusive relationship, or they may want to keep the baby for whatever reason because of relationship reasons, right? There's an emotional thing going on with the lady. But adoptions in this country are a pain in the neck. They take forever. I'm going to work with the federal government to streamline our adoption process so it's a lot smoother and easier for those trying to adopt here in the United States. Okay? I also want to make the economy better so people can feel like they can afford to keep their baby, so they don't have to sit here and feel like they can't afford enough to have another kid or to be able to keep their kid. They feel like they have to go get an abortion. That would be a great starting offensive message, right? Right now, the messaging has been, look, we're Republicans, right? It's a states' right thing. We're not going to go around and ban it everywhere, right? Democrats are 9 months. They're weird. And that's great for a couple election cycles. But remember, voters are smarter than this. Voters are smarter than this. At some point, the pro-life voters will pick it up, and they're going to start demanding action, right? And you can't just you can't keep doing, excuse me, you can't keep doing the whole, we're going to go from, 11 weeks, 10, and move it a week every session or every couple years. Also because the percentage of abortions are not even coming in through the weeks anymore at the clinics. They're coming in through the abortion pill from the federal government. And this is where the federal government can get involved. Then not a lot of people knew this. And we're going to see what this new Trump administration does with RFK Jr. as the new U.S. Health Secretary. I personally believe that if you are going to honor the states' right thing from the Dobbs decision, then you need to say the abortion pill can only be accessible once you've seen a doctor in your state, you've gotten verified in your state that you're at X week or whatever, and then you can order it to your house in that state. Or if that's too much, you can only order it if you're in some sort of, well, actually, no, there's no way to, because you have to be able to make sure you're measured a certain way, right? So, yeah, you'd have to go to the doctor, make sure you're measured, and then you can order the pill. Right? And they give you some code or whatever, and the doctor could, this, if I can do fantasy football Yahoo, app, that's what I use. I use the Yahoo app for fantasy football, and it restricts me based on my geotag for state because of federal law and all these various different states. Federal law says the Verizon, Sprint, all the cell phone providers have to honor the state laws and the geotagging, all this stuff. So if I'm in Louisiana and it says no gaming, and I want to collect cash for my fantasy football league, and Louisiana, it knows I'm geotagged in there, it won't let me have my league send me cash. I have to do it separately, right? Then there's ways for the federal government to do that. Now, Some people will say, well, Matt, you just said, well, there's other ways to go around it. Like they could Venmo you, and that's what we do, right? They could Venmo you. They could do all these things, right? Back alley abortions. Well, look, there's a couple arguments to that. Number one, when something's a law, it sets a moral standard, and things do go down, right? It's the same argument the left makes with gun control laws, right? So when there's a law, there's a moral standard. Participation goes down, culture changes around it, right? Things will continue to happen, right? We make weed illegal again, consumption will go down. Consumption will still exist, but it will go down. Because when you legalize it, what has happened to consumption? Weed consumption has gone up. So, what's the goal of this? Lower abortion rates. The left and the Democrat Party has made abortion a top sacramental priority in their party. It's one of the only issues you knew about them when you voted for them this last November. The Republicans, it's like a 9th or 10th priority as a party structure within their coalition base, right? Economics were front and center. Part of it was the opportunity to win. When you're in the pro-life movement, you have to look around at your coalition. What party is going to be best for you? A party is a coalition of different people's ideas, perspectives, and priorities in order to achieve a result of winning an election to then make policy happen on the back end. This time, the pro-lifers looked around and said, our policy is going to drag down the ticket. We understand people around us are still going to help serve us like we will serve them with our top priority people get into place. We might help a gun right person or economic form, right? Everyone has different priorities why they go in. Our coalition this time around was like 8th. Democrats could only keep beating the dead horse of abortion for so long. But the GOP needs to capitalize on this with offensive messaging by helping women across the country who are in need of abortion and being proactive with this. Economy, Trump strength needs to do it. GOP strength needs to do it. Child care, it could be something about child care on the state level. I don't want the federal government involved in child care. Education, you saw that. Emotional strain, right? Understanding, adoption process. There are ways to do it. We need to be able to take that approach to help get our foot in the door from a culture standpoint so we can be trusted again and have people understand where we're coming from when we say truly we are here to protect the baby. So that's my take here on the Matt Curran Show. I know a little bit of that was repetitive. The last thing I do want to play is a little clip, and I'm going to react to it. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it didn't really fit in, and I was on a roll, baby. Is the Bill Clinton comment about birth rates and immigration? So I'm going to play that now.
They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up, so we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work, there wouldn't be a problem. And he couldn't keep people all torn up and upset.
So here's the problem with that, both for the Democrat Party and just logistically. So in 2023, just over 1 million abortions were performed. If those babies were allowed the opportunity to live, I have to go back and check, but I think we'd definitely be over the 2.1 percentage birth rate. I think we were in the high 2s for a percentage birth rate. Right now we're at 1.6. So you let those million of babies pass through the womb, get born. Economy booms that way. You have future generations. That's why they're called baby boomers, and we have such a worry about Social Security in the future is because we don't have people to pay off this pyramid scheme, right? It's going to collapse at some point because the Gen X people did not reproduce themselves the right way. So he's talking about immigration. Well, we got to have immigrants come in here, right? Immigrants got to come in and kind of fill the pyramid holes that we've been aborting, right? Well, here's the problem with that. The immigrants are typically now Hispanics who have way more traditional values than than just your average typical American, right? They are way more pro-life, the Hispanics are. Trump got them by like 20% 2016, 35% 2020, 45% of Hispanic vote in 2024. Hispanics are warming up to Republicans. Southern Texas, 2 Republican congressional seats picked up there. They are trending red. They are also, and part of that is not just economics, but they are realizing that the Republican Party is culturally and morally more aligned with them. And so as their voices get more heard, it'll be interesting to see, do the Democrats go to more of a moderate wing to try to maybe pick some of them up, right? Or do they just abandon them altogether, which means within the Republican Party, as they sort of fold in the Republican Party, the pro-life wing will get stronger because Hispanics are more pro-life than any other ethnic group out there, and probably any group really. The other thing to watch is do second and third generation Hispanics, do they stay within the party? Historically, they assimilate to America, to the American lifestyle better than the first generations. And right now they've shifted with them, but they could be more swayable back to the Democrats than say the first generation of Hispanics and Latin Americans and all that. From what I see, right, that like they could be shifted more. They speak a lot more fluent English, from my understanding, right? So that will be something to watch as well. Besides that, folks, that's it. I appreciate y'all joining the Matt Curran Show. Please like and subscribe this video and share it with your friends and family. We want to get that YouTube subscription up, and we appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Let's go out there and fight the fight and vote the vote.